Hey everyone, in this video I will talk about some of the most common questions which are asked in an AngularJS interview. To keep the video short, I am going to cover few topics, but there will be multiple parts of this video to cover more areas in the future. So without wasting any more time in meaningless talks, let's get to the questions themselves. So over here I have opened Visual Studio Code and I have already created a new AngularJS 6 applications in which I'm going to write the code to show you guys the questions which I'm going to talk about. So first, let's see the topics themselves. So the first topic which I will talk about is the template reference variables, and the second one is going to be safe navigation operator. I'm not really sure if you have already worked on this or not. Obviously many of you must have already seen them in action, and if you haven't already seen them, then it should be good for you to watch this video. If you already know about them, then it should act as a good refresher. So first let's talk about the template reference variables, and there are actually many different ways to get the user data in Angular from the inputs. One of the ways are by using the template reference variables. So these variables provide direct access to an element from within the template. To declare such a reference variable, simply write a hash character or the pound character and then the name of the variable within an HTML element. So let's see a code example so that you can see how it actually works. So what I will do is I'm actually going to add a label first, and then let's set the value as first name. After that I'm going to add an input element, and then I'm going to copy and paste this for the last name too. And after that I'm going to add a button. So what I'm going to do is whenever the button will be clicked, then the values of the first name and last name will be printed on the on the web page, on the HTML page. But I'm not going to use the component class code to do that. I'm going to simply use this HTML content itself for that. So let's set the button caption as set name, and after that I'm going to add span over here, and yep, that's it. Now what I will do is I will simply add the template reference variables to the inputs and to the span. So for input I'm going to call it first name. For the second input I'm going to call it last name, and also let's give a name to this span itself in which we are going to show the output, and let's call it span output. Now as in this buttons click event, I will use these variables, these first name and last name variables, to show their values in this span, and for that I will use the reference variable for this span element itself. So for that we simply need to provide a code logic in the click event. So whenever the button will be clicked, then what we want to do is we just want to set the inner text of this span output element by concatenating the first name and last name. So first name dot value, and then last name dot value. That should be pretty much it, I guess. Right, so let's see if this code is working, and for that I'm just going to write the ngserve command in the terminal. Okay, so there are our elements. So what I will do is I'm just going to, actually this should be first name and last name, sorry. John Doe, and when I'm clicking on the button, then this first name and last name are printing over here. So this is the way in which we can use the template reference variables. The good thing about them is that their scope is limited to this entire HTML template itself, and we will not be able to access these variables in the class code. So the equivalent code to be written in the class to do the same thing is going to be much bigger than what we have done over here. And another thing to note over here is that the template reference variables can be used unless there is an event binding. So Angular only updates the screen from the bindings if there is an asynchronous event like any keystrokes or mouse clicks. So unless there is an event, the bindings will not work, and the template reference variables will also can be used unless there is an event raised by the user. That was it for the template reference variables. Now I'm going to show you the usage of the safe navigation operator. So the safe navigation operator can be used to protect against the errors which are generated when there are null or undefined values used in the interpolation syntax within the component HTML. So whenever this safe navigation operator finds that the property is null, it stops the interpolation code parsing and a blank value is displayed instead of an error throwing in the window console. So first I'm just going to comment out this code. So I'm just going to show you a very basic example, and then after that I think I will cover a complex one which will involve get network request, so that you can see the somewhat related scenario in which where we can use this safe navigation operator. So what I will do is I will simply go to this app component, and then you know what I will do is let's create an object for person, and then I'm just going to remove this title from over here. Now in ng on init event, what I will do is I'm going to set the person okay, this should be this dot person because this person is a part of this class. So I'm going to set this as an object, and I'm also going to provide a property name over here. Let's call it John, and now inside this component HTML we can actually use the interpolation text to access the property name. So person.first name. Now let's see in the browser we can see the first name. So now let me show you what will happen if we try to access a property which is linked to an undefined object. So for this to work, what I need to do is I need to add another object over here. So for that, let's remove this first name, and then let's add this name, and then to this name I'm going to add the first name with the value John, and then in this component HTML I'm going to write the okay, I don't know what I just did, but another instance of VS Code open. Anyways, person.name.first name, it should work similarly like we did for the previous object declaration, and we can see the first name. But what will happen if I were to remove this name property entirely? What will happen when we will do that? Now in that case we will see an error that there's a type error, cannot read property first name of undefined. So because the this name is undefined, the Angular code is unable to find this first name property, so that's why it's throwing this error. So to remove this error, what we can do is we can simply use the safe navigation operator. So the property which you think could be undefined, can have this question mark after its name, and after the dot we can simply write the property name that we intend to use to print the value. But if this is going to be undefined or null, then nothing will be printed and no error will be thrown. And now when I have saved my code, then you can see that nothing has been printed over here and no error is being thrown. And if I simply go ahead and again add the name property, then you can see the name is being printed. So yeah, it's simple as that. Alright, so now I think I will show you a complex example for this. So I'm going to comment out this one, and I'm just going to you know what, add another terminal over here. So I'm going to add a service, let's call it data, and in this data service I'm going to first import some dependencies, some module dependencies which we need. This should be HTTP, and then in the constructor I'm going to inject the HTTP client's dependency. Now I'm going to create a function get all posts, and I will tell you from where I'm going to get the data, and then get user by ID. Actually, you know what, okay, alright, so what I will do is I'm going to use the publicly available get APIs on this website jsonplaceholder.typicode.com to fetch some resources, and then I'm going to do them asynchronously. So to see this operator in action for asynchronous requests, because what will happen is when we are dealing with async requests, then all the data will not arrive at the same time. There could be that some data should arrive initially, and then some data could be arriving later on in the future, depending on the way in which we are requesting. So sometimes it could happen that we could set the properties with the data which we believe should arrive in the future, but it has not yet arrived. So what will happen is the properties are going to be undefined, which we are using in the interpolation strings, and the console will throw the errors. And to prevent that, we can use this safe navigation operator. So over here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the first this get posts URL, and after that I'm going to use the get users, and then because this is a template string I can use the ID like that. And now in the component class, what I will do is I will simply first import the data service, and then I will import the observable, and after that I think we will also need the constructor to inject the dependencies, and private data service, and now in ng on init what I will do is I will simply call this dot data dot get all posts, and then we can, actually I made a big mistake over here. We also need to return the return values up from these functions, and we can subscribe to the returning object, which should be an observable, and then I'm going to write an arrow function over here and let's call it post. Now we have got all the posts, but as you can see over here in these posts there is no username, there is only user ID. So to fetch the username associated with any individual post, we need to use this user ID to make another GET request to this URL, but we will send the ID along with it, so we will get the name. But this name is going to arrive in the future, so we will need to use this safe navigation operator to make sure that no error is thrown. So let's see. I'm just going to create an array first, and before that let's also create a public property. So posts dot for each. Okay, I don't know why it did that, but actually this should be post array because we are typecasting this posts into an array and then we are getting the value in there. So I'm going to again use the data service which we created, but this time we are going to get the user by ID and post dot user ID. So this user ID property is being fetched from over here, the name is being used from over here. So and then we can again subscribe to it because this is going to be an observable. So this example could be complicated for you, but if you if you pull it off in front of an interviewer, then they are sure going to be impressed by you if you can pull this kind of example. And then user, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new property in this post with the name of the user. So after that, the thing which needs to be done is send the reference of posts in post array. Now all we need to do is we need to write some HTML, and for that to first display the posts, what I will do is I will simply use a div. Now in this div I can use the for let post of posts, and then over here we can write the name of the post first, or title of the post, and then we can in a paragraph we can write the body. Now let's do something else. Let's also in the next line we can write the name of the user who has created the post, and for that we need to write post.user dot, and what was the name of the property? Its name. Alright, so first I'm not going to use this safe navigation operator so that you can see what is the problem with this code. So I think I have made a mistake, and okay, I think I need to write this dot posts over here because this is a part of this class, and then let's save it. Right, now in this browser window what we can see is we can see the post name and then the name of the user and then the post body, but as you can see there are literally so many different errors. And why these errors are there? Because it says that cannot read property name of undefined. So what is happening is that we have used this name property which belongs to this user object which we are creating for every individual post. But what is going on over here is that the number of posts are going to be fetched first, but we are getting the user objects for every individual user ID for every post by using a loop, and the asynchronous requests in this for each loop is not going to be necessarily finished all at once. They are going to be finished sometime in the future, but this code is going to be executed before that, and that's the reason why we are getting the post title and body first, but the user name can be retrieved sometime in the future, and until and unless it's not retrieved, this object is going to be undefined. So to prevent that, we can simply write a question mark over here to use the safe navigation operator, and then when I will save it, then you can see that the console is now clear of any errors, but we are still seeing the same results. So yep, that's what I had to say about the safe navigation operator. Now this is a good example, and if you can show this to someone, then they are surely going to be impressed by you, because this is actually a practical scenario when we are working with network and asynchronous requests. So I guess that was pretty much it about this video, guys, and I do hope that you will like this video, and if you do, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so, and you will be then able to get all the information about new video updates as soon as I upload them. So yep, that's it for this video, and have a nice day.